Hey teacher friends, welcome back. I am Nina Rodriguez and you are watching Misfit to Teach, where I talk about all things teaching and how to stay mentally, physically, and emotionally fit to teach. If we haven't met before or I don't already know you, please hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell so that you and I can come together every week. If you're still on the fence about joining our community, and you definitely should, please consider at least hitting the like button, because now more than ever, what we're trying to do on this channel is aggressively push teaching issues and classroom matters to the forefront of public conversation. So thank you in advance, and let's begin. Today would be a really good day, especially since pretty much wherever you are in teaching, whatever state or district you happen to teach in, the school year has basically started for everyone, which means all teachers are back in the classroom to one extent or the other, and we are starting to feel it as the honeymoon phase is basically over. So today I thought it would be a really good idea, especially if you're an aspiring teacher or you're on your way into a classroom or you're just wondering what it is that teachers do all day, to talk about the pros and cons of teaching. Teaching con number one, and probably the most significant deterrent to ever entering the teaching field. Comparatively speaking, across other industries, teachers tend to make less money during the course of their careers as compared with many other fields. This is a very legitimate concern and has been the bane of a teacher's existence for generations. It's common knowledge that across the board, teachers tend to make considerably less than what the credentialing and licensing warrants. And it is very common for teachers to usually take on another job in order to supplement their income. In my district, we are very fortunate to earn some of the highest salaries when compared to cost of living for this area and within, I would say, a 60 to 100 mile radius. Our school district is doing a phenomenal and very intentional job of using the salary and benefits package to leverage some of the top talent around the nation and draw them into our district. And it's this same level of intentionality with our salaries and benefits that's keeping teachers here over the long haul and past that dreaded 3 to 5 year hump. Now, just because we're doing it in our district and other districts pay fairly well compared with their cost of living, it doesn't mean that there are not struggles nationwide in many, many other districts. So if you feel like teaching may be right for you, you need to give serious consideration to your budget, what you want your salary prospects to be, and how you plan to supplement your income if necessary in order to support the lifestyle you want. Teaching pro. Even though a teacher's salary is comparatively low across other industries, teachers are able to secure their salaries at a rate much faster than many other industries, given the fact that we are usually 10-month employees and we don't work year-round. What this means for teachers, if we leverage it properly, and again, every individual's circumstances are different, but because we tend to work 9 to 10 months out of the year and we have generous vacation packages, we are able to leverage that downtime into other industries, other business prospects, and other lucrative opportunities. Now more than ever, with this being the internet age and the information age, teachers are now leveraging all of their extra time into securing the licensing, the brand deals, the resources, and the credentials to place themselves in other markets, such as real estate, franchising, social media collaborations, etc. And it's these projects that are helping teachers leverage themselves into other markets in a way that's just not available to employees of other industries who work all year round. Teaching con number two. Teachers are treated with a great deal of disrespect, hassle, and disregard that can be likened to a customer service job or even worse. I think now more than ever, in the era of trauma-informed practices and people having so much access to teachers at any given day, it is very, very difficult for teachers to be able to do their job with efficacy, with agency, and autonomy in a way that is safely buffered against all of the naysaying, negative, and insulting, and sometimes dangerous voices that can come against them. And a lot of those voices can be from their own students in their own classrooms. If it weren't for the modest teaching salaries, disrespect is right on par with the most common reasons that teachers are walking away from the profession. If you're taking in the constant negativity, the negative stimuli that's happening in and around your classroom all the time, this can weigh on your psyche, and this stress can bleed into other areas of your life. I am not in any way denying or downplaying the seriousness of the disrespect that is handed down to teachers, on top of the fact that a lot of this disrespect is often not met with any reasonable consequence. Without a doubt, there are ways to kind of get around this and to minimize the disrespect that happens with teachers, but it can be very, very difficult to foster the relationships, the presence, and the understandings that have to be in place in order for you to be one of those teachers that is just never really tested and disrespected by admin, parents, or students. Teacher Pro. When your students and teaching community like you, they love you. I've had the great fortune in my career so far, knock on wood, where I haven't encountered a whole lot of disrespect and turbulence on a day-to-day and ongoing basis to where it's made me wonder if I should be in teaching. Day to day, I have to deal with my fair share of disruptions and petty nonsense, either usually coming from some of my kids or just coming from like administrative school adult bureaucracy nonsense. But I can say across the board, I enjoy a pretty good relationship, both with my school community, the community at large. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But it wasn't without some intentional decision-making, both in the way that I carry myself and the way that I consistently conduct my classroom. I do my best to put on a positive face and be like a really good presence in the school. And I like the kids to feel like they can come to me, if not for their lessons and they have to be there, then just to have a chat. I also try to keep a really good rapport with their families, making sure that if I have to address a concern, I'm sandwiching that concern with positive things their students are doing well. And so I've found that across the board, while disrespect is a real thing in modern teaching, without a doubt, there are some things that we can do to at least buffer it so that it's not so bad. Teaching pro number 3, unsupportive administrators and unaccountable parents and guardians. So if you've been teaching any amount of time, then you have firsthand experience by now with an administrator that just seems like their head is in the clouds, or they're always finding a way to give some unruly kid an out. You contact parents regarding difficulties or concerns happening with a student in your classroom, and they just insist that it's your fault, you're doing something wrong, or something's not being met. The list goes on and on and on. They have well-established, well-prepared excuses for their child's behavior or lack of performance, and they usually have some amount of track record with dealing with the school and other teachers on these very same issues. This kind of issue with enough frequency can be very, very exhausting for teachers to have to put up with. When teachers have to face unsupportive administrators who aren't doing enough to help what's going on in a classroom, they are not intervening on a teacher's behalf, or they're not being an example of the law that governs that school, it can be really, really demeaning for teachers to go in there consistently and try to do what they have to do and put up a worthy fight without being completely exhausted or wondering what it's all for. The same can be said about parents and guardians. As of this school year alone, I've encountered many, many videos already across YouTube and other platforms of teachers explaining like their number 1 or top 3 reason why they're leaving the field and walking away from their classrooms, oftentimes mid-contract. They won't even finish out their school year before they throw their hands up in the air and have just had enough. And I think across the board, not just on a national level, but happening globally, there seems to be this pendulum swing in the direction of favoring a child and making excuses for bad behavior and lack of performance. This is something that you definitely want to consider as you think about your longevity of being a teacher, or if you're considering taking the plunge into this field. Some things, the reality is you will have to go it very much alone. You'll have to lay down the law in your classroom. You'll have to be consistent with your policies, procedures, and expectations. And you'll have to be ready to be the bad guy for yourself, because you can't always rely on administration to do it for you or for parents and guardians to back you up. Teacher pro number 3. Administrators, parents, guardians, and school communities want what's best for their students, and they're willing to uplift the teacher who's working hard to make that happen. In tandem with the growing number of teachers who are posting videos, posting vlogs, just kind of getting their voices out there, expressing their concerns and their frustrations with teaching, the same number is happening on the other side. Now more than ever, we're also seeing lots of teachers like myself coming out of the woodwork, explaining the pros and cons to provide a more comprehensive picture of the realities of teaching, and also the good things that can come from a teacher who's in that classroom, means business, is putting in the work hours, and is making a change. If you can be a teacher who sticks it out, who does their best to follow the rules, who is working with their admin as much as you can while actively fostering good bridges between him or herself and the parents and guardians at home, you will find that still the majority of times the parents are willing to cooperate with you, and your administrator is at least willing to see your side of things, especially if you're coming from a place of logic and not emotion. I am not at all minimizing or suggesting there are not bad administrators in the bunch and there are not lazy, unaccountable parents and guardians in the bunch, because those things absolutely exist, but they are part of a much broader reality of teaching. What we still find across the board is that parents and guardians and school personnel all want to see children succeed. We are in the business of making children success in the classroom academically. When we are not doing that, we fail together, and we cannot have that. So by and large, what we find is that everybody is willing to do what it takes. And if you are struggling, there is somebody out there who will support you. And teaching con number 4. Teaching can be a hard, lonely road once you're in the school year. It's stressful, and in the end, nobody cares. Once you get into the thick of the school year, you're on autopilot, you're doing your routines every single day, you're facing the ups and downs, you're keeping your head and your students' heads above water. It really can seem like you're going it alone, and that you've just become this one person, this one little fish in an ocean that's much bigger than you. Teaching is very much a hero's journey, man. I mean, there's no way around it. Like, you will go into your classroom day in and day out, you'll clock in and you'll clock out, and a whole day will go by and you'll feel like maybe you really just didn't have like any meaningful, worthwhile, or if any, adult interaction. Like, you didn't get time to vent to anybody. You had to put all of your personal feelings and goals and dilemmas aside to just heal everybody else's brokenness, and it can leave you feeling so empty. I want you to know I identify with that same feeling, and you're very much not alone. That's why educators like myself and a host of other teachers around the nation on all these different platforms work very hard to cultivate these communities, is so that we can know that we're not doing this by ourselves. This can be lonely work, but we don't have to be truly alone in it. This career is a lot, and it's very much a calling. It is not built for the weak, and it is not built for anyone who is not called to be a teacher. I strongly feel that you have to have like a divine anointing on your life in order to do this work. And I don't apologize for feeling that way about it. It's not for everybody, and you have to take a lot. You have to put a lot of yourself into this system. You're constantly feeding this education machine, and oftentimes you're feeding it sort of with the belief that maybe nothing is going to come out of it. And that's just not true, which takes me to the 4th and final teacher pro. Teaching is a revered and time-honored calling. It is mandatory for the passing of civilization on to the next generation, and we are an absolute necessity. You heard me right, and I make absolutely no apologies for it. Again, I believe that now more than ever, we need to go back to carrying ourselves with a certain level of dignity and expectation for how we are treated by others. We should not be tolerating any longer the disrespect and the negativity that is thrown to us. It doesn't mean that we have to pick every battle. It doesn't mean that we need to get into it with the angry parents. In fact, it's the opposite. If people surrounding the education community refuse to speak to us and address us at a certain level, then we don't need to give those people our time or attention. If you as a spectator of education are unwilling to lift yourself up to the level where teachers are and how we deserve to be treated, you don't deserve our time. And I'm not apologizing for that. I am the first one to disregard, disengage, and show disinterest to anybody who seeks to minimize what I do and what we do, or who tries to treat it as some kind of failure on my part. We as educators have a divine responsibility for appropriately and effectively passing civilization on to the next generation. And to do that, we require support, we require resources, and we require respect. And we will not put up with anything less. So start carrying yourself like that, starting today. Start prioritizing your health and well-being. Remember, this is a channel that promotes all things teaching and how to stay mentally, physically, and emotionally fit to teach. You need to prioritize those different aspects of your life in order to go into your classroom and do what you do well. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening. My top 4 teacher cons versus my top 4 teacher pros. That's what I have for you. I hope it was worth it. If you have anything to add to the conversation, do it. Hit like, hit share, leave a comment. Definitely be a part of our growing community. It's important, y'all. We need to pick up momentum, and we're doing so well. Do all you can to stay fit to teach, and I'll see you next time. Be well.